Thank you. Thank you, Lucinda, and thank you, Tim, for a wonderful sermon that actually steals a bit of my thunder, but in a way that only makes me happy that there's such links. Every few years I reread Rowan Williams' wonderful little book, Tokens of Trust, which if you haven't read it, I recommend to everybody here. Don't wait for the next Netflix version. It's a terrific little book. And I came across a passage this week in which he sums up St. Paul's teaching about the diversity of gifts within the church as follows. Very simple. If you have a gift, it's there so that you can help another become a giver in turn. As simple as that. If you have a gift, it's there so you can help another become a giver in turn. As God said to Abraham, I'm going to bless you so that you may be a blessing to others. And it's a fantastic vision of church. Thinking about this week, I immediately saw this as a vision of what a church can be, especially now as we finish our stewardship appeal, as we start to continue our reflection on our own vocation and future vision for this community. After COVID, as we change deans, so much going on as we look to the years ahead. I mean, the diversity of gifts in this very polyglot congregation is always been remarkable. Not just temperaments and cultures, but perspectives and experiences of God. And it's a diversity of gifts by which we can make God's love and grace a reality to each other and to the world around us. And for nearly 20 years now, this has been my home, and I've been blessed and sometimes challenged by that diversity, an expression of God's grace to me and to others. I've been involved in all kinds of stuff, stewardship campaigns and vestry and Christian education and ushering and welcoming and on. And yet there's so much I've never gotten close to being involved in that goes on around here. I've hardly scratched the surface, and my family as well. My daughter was baptized here. My wife has made this her spiritual home, and yet I see so much else. The music ministry, which you'll all be pleased to know I stay well away from. The sandwich ministry, love in a box, and so much else. And in so many ways, these gifts of time and talent and treasure are the ways in which we empower others and each other, enabling one another and opening the way for others to become givers too, so that this can be a community in which we might all receive from one another the abundant grace of God, and also to help pour that grace out into the world around us. And that's what this season is about. If we think stewardship is about the church budget, we profane the idea completely. It's not that. It's not even a duty, believe it or not, in spite of all the sermons you ever heard about tithing. Stewardship is a way of seeing the world and seeing our lives and living our lives that recognizes that everything we have is gift. And that goes back to the sermon as well, because Thich Nhat Hanh's comment about a world that is just abounding in miracles is what we need to see. Because when we see that everything we have is gift, it becomes so much easier to respond generously to the staggering generosity of God, trusting God enough to know that we can risk a bit becoming channels of God's grace. We can risk a bit with our calendars, with our checkbooks, and when we do, our day planners, our checkbooks, even our telephones, God help us, become sacred spaces where we can meet God as surely as we meet God here every Sunday. And that, I think, is what we have to remember as we reflect on what we can offer and what we should offer to one another. That we can trust God enough to become agents of God's grace and care, allowing that abundance of grace, that abundance of miracles to flow through this parish and out the doors onto George Sank and into the world beyond. Thank you.